Our story kicks off with a big question. What really defines the essence of a human being, and what gives it value? Outside the garden, we find young Deor having the time of his life with his mom. He crafted a flower crown, and when she lets him place it on her head, his joy just skyrockets. It's a simple, tender moment, but then things shift. Enter his father, who also happens to be the king of this continent. Deor, being the cheerful kid he is, starts rambling about how his mom teaches him little things here and there. But the king not here for play. He cuts straight to the point, asking his son if he wants to be king one day. Deor hesitates, turns to his mother for reassurance, and when she smiles, he blurts out yes. The king doesn't stop there. He presses harder. If you want to rule this land, what do you need? Deor answers with the innocence of a child, knowledge. But the king raises the stakes with a brutal scenario. Imagine two cliffs collapsing. On one side, your family and friends. On the other, the people of the kingdom. You can only save one. Which do you choose? Like, seriously? He's just a kid. How do you expect him to solve a dilemma like that? Of course, Deor has no answer. The king explodes in anger, declaring that a true king must have resolve. Fast forward 10 years. That same boy is now a young knight, training hard with his sword. But trouble seems to follow him everywhere. A group of bullies shows up, mocking him. Deor's biggest flaw is that he can't use magius, and to make matters worse, he's got commoner's blood from his mother's side. Instead of backing down, Deor challenges one of them. He charges in without hesitation, catching his opponent off guard. And he throws the mockery right back. No one waits for anyone in real combat. Guess your wet nurse forgot to mention that. That burns. The bully, furious, vows not to hold back just because Deor's a prince. But then he crosses the line, mocking Deor's mother. That's it. Deor snaps, forces him to the ground with ease, and the fight is done. Scoreboard says, Deor 1, bully 0. The bully couldn't handle losing. The moment Deor lowered his guard, the guy tried a cheap shot from behind. But Deor, he was ready. He blocked it clean. Then things got wild. The bully pulled out magius and fired off a spell, Luxafixa. Deor barely dodged it, like at the very last second. You could almost feel the heat of that blast. Just as the fight was about to spiral out of control, Princess Solaris stepped in. She dismissed the bullies right away, shutting the whole thing down. Solaris is the king's daughter, but from another mother. Keep that in mind, because King Vincent has kids from multiple mothers, and that detail matters later. Solaris rushed over, worried about Deor. But he wasn't having it. He answered her coldly. He didn't want pity. She told him the king had summoned all his children to appear before him. When she noticed the scratch on Deor's face, she feared his mother Camille would be upset. Deor brushed her hand away, assuring her he'd be fine and insisting she leave. After finishing his training, Deor walked through the hallway. The nobles were waiting, and they didn't hold back. Loud voices mocked him. What's a commoner's child doing here? They insulted him and his mother, laughing like it was entertainment. Deor was furious. He wanted to tear them apart right then and there. But instead, he swore to himself, one day, he'd make them regret every word. Finally, all of King Vincent of Angale's children gathered. They bowed to show respect to their father, or rather, their king. Vincent stood tall and made his announcement. It didn't matter if you were a soldier, an aristocrat, or royalty. Any one of his kin had the chance, the honor, to claim the crown. The king didn't just make that announcement. He had already arranged for the crown itself to be present. He didn't care about someone's origin or bloodline. If the crown deemed you worthy, you could take the honor and rule the land of Evangale. But remember, the crown only chooses those who truly deserve it. Of course, not everyone was thrilled about this. One of the noble guards scoffed, finding it ridiculous that anyone could claim the crown. Let's be real, they were throwing shade at Deor, the half-blood prince with commoner roots. Now, let's shift back to the hallway. Things were already going downhill. An intruder had slipped in, killed one of the guards, and was making his way toward the main event. Yosef noticed something was off and went to investigate. What he found was Grim, his comrade dead. Without hesitation, Yosef launched a Luxafixa spell at the intruder. But the intruder dodged with ease and fired his own Luxafixa back. Yosef blocked it barehanded, proving the intruder's magius was weak. Then the intruder switched tactics, throwing a dagger tied to a rope. Yosef dodged the blade, but didn't notice the rope attached. He tried to retreat to call for backup, but the intruder pressed forward, yanking the dagger straight into Yosef's head. A girl guard rushed in, firing her spell. The intruder ducked behind cover, then pulled his dagger back, forcing her to dodge. That distraction cost her. The intruder unleashed Luxaplodia, a massive explosion that stopped her cold. Meanwhile, Deor could feel the tremors from afar. Something dangerous was coming closer. The intruder then drew his sword. It carried strange engravings, almost like a saying etched into steel. The intruder kept advancing, shouting out the king's name. He lunged, trying to stab Vincent from behind, but the king was no fool. With a swift motion, Vincent activated his ice spell, forming a shield that stopped the blade cold. 2 guards were ready to rush in, but a third stopped them. His reasoning? He couldn't sense the intruder's magius. To him, that meant the attacker was weak, no real threat to the king. Vincent's gaze locked onto the intruder. His eyes were cruel, cold, almost mocking, as if he was laughing inside at the audacity of this weak challenger. The king raised his hand, ready to seize him, but the intruder dashed back, tossing a smoke bomb that filled the room. The guards panicked, thinking it might be a poison gas. But Deor, watching closely, realized the truth. If it were poison, the intruder would have used it the moment he appeared. This was just cover. And then, before Deor could react, the intruder slipped through the smoke, appearing right behind him. In an instant, he grabbed Deor, holding him hostage. The intruder thought he had the upper hand. And get this, he even mocked Deor for not being able to sense his weak magius. Like, bro, you're holding a kid hostage and still talking trash? Then he turned his rage toward the king, shouting that Vincent's people were starving, being slaughtered by demons, and demanding to know why he wasn't saving them. Even with his son's life on the line, Vincent didn't flinch. He didn't care. He just stepped back, cold and detached, as if the threat meant nothing. That arrogance cost the intruder. He loosened his grip, and Deor seized the moment, breaking free. One of the guards immediately fired a Luxafixa spell, halting the intruder's advance. More guards closed in from behind, surrounding him. Deor jumped in, trying to land a kick, but the intruder dodged and lunged straight for the crown. The moment his hand touched it, golden energy burst forth. But then, something darker crept in, a sinister spark of black energy that wrapped around him, engulfing his body. The dark energy pouring out of the crown began consuming the intruder. Princess Solaris cried out, warning him to let go, or the crown would devour him completely. But the intruder quickly realized the horror. He couldn't release it, no matter how hard he tried. In that moment, he saw a demon's manifestation, laughing right in his face. As the crown drained his life away, the intruder screamed at Vincent, cursing him from the depths of hell. And just like that, his body crumbled into nothing but black ashes. The crown fell, striking the ground, but then it vanished, only to reappear exactly where it belonged, untouched. Prince Yuhan, watching all of this unfold, found it fascinating. The king had declared that any of his children could claim the crown. First, Prince Antonio was already proven unfit to rule, which meant the path was open. Everyone had a chance now: Solaris, the adopted daughter, and even Deor Fluenti, the prince born from a commoner's blood who couldn't wield magius. And then, as if the scene wasn't eerie enough, a black crow with glowing red eyes appeared. It circled, searching for Deor, calling him by a name that sent chills down the spine: Deorsum. Galeus, once a mighty kingdom, feared and respected across the land. Their strength in magius was unmatched, ruling over nations with sheer dominance. But then came the demon Invidia. Unlike humans, Invidia didn't discriminate, strong or weak. He tore through everything in his path. To stop him, generals from many kingdoms united, gathering thousands of soldiers to face the terror. Yet, in the end, only one man stood victorious: Vincent Evangale. He destroyed Invidia's body, but the demon's soul endured, haunting Vincent's kingdom unseen. Day by day, Invidia grows stronger, consuming anyone unlucky enough to cross his path. Evidence of his soul was spotted near Alis village, far from the kingdom's borders. Normally, you can't defeat what you can't see, but Vincent believes otherwise. That's why he's offering the crown as an incentive, pushing his kin to grow stronger. Meanwhile, Deor faced more ridicule. One family member mocked him, bumbling about how unfit he was to be king since he couldn't even use magius. But then Equali, one of Deor's brothers, stepped in. He defended Deor, reminding everyone how important family is and that they should support each other. Later, Equali laughed with Deor, teasing him that if he kept furrowing his brows all the time, he'd age faster. He made it clear, no matter what others said, he would stand by Deor and support him to be the next king. Just then, Equali's mother, Lady Roma, appeared. Deor greeted her formally, genuinely happy to see her health improving. Roma asked about Deor's mother, having heard rumors she was ill. But the truth? She wasn't sick at all. The nobles spread that lie because they didn't want a commoner woman among them, even though she was one of the king's wives. Deor parted ways with them. But remember that black crow with red eyes? Turns out, it wasn't just a crow. It was a demon, and it was creeping up from behind, ready to devour our boy. Before the demon could sink its fangs into Deor, something strange happened. Even though our boy can't sense magius, he felt something. He turned back, only for the demon to melt into the shadows. As he kept walking, the demon tried again. Same trick. But this time, Deor caught sight of a raven trailing him. Except, that raven wasn't just a bird. It was the demon itself. And then, out of nowhere, someone stepped right out of the wall beside him. A blonde man, Dante. Now, Dante Dante isn't just anyone. He's the only person in Galeus who can detect demons. Without him, those creatures would be roaming freely through the kingdom, unseen. Dante immediately started checking Deor. Deor asked if he sensed a demon nearby. Dante knew the truth. The demon was hiding inside Deor's shadow. But instead of telling him, Dante lied. He claimed he hadn't slept for 5 days and might be hallucinating. Deor wanted to point out the raven that had been following him, but it was already gone. Dante quickly shifted the conversation, bringing up the real reason he was there. He wanted Deor to step down, to give up on becoming king. That hit a nerve. Deor's fury boiled over. He swore he would be the one to claim the crown, no matter what anyone said. Now, you might wonder, why would someone as important as Dante treat Deor this way? The truth is, Dante was tasked by the king himself to watch over Deor, to make sure no harm reached him. From there, the scene shifts. We see Deor's mother, standing in the center of a violet garden. Her beauty is undeniable, even though she's a commoner. When her son arrived, she embraced him warmly, overjoyed to see him safe. 2 days after the king's announcement, the atmosphere around the court shifted completely. Suddenly, everyone was treating Deor with respect. Guards lined the halls, greeting him formally, no mocking, no sneers. Even Alec, the same bully from before, approached him, asking for a favor. Alec wanted to know if Deor would attend the royal banquet that evening, since Lady Fluenti, Deor's mother, would be there. Once Deor confirmed, Alec went further, saying he wanted Deor to meet his sister. She'd never paid much attention to men before, but now she was suddenly interested in meeting him. What can I say? People are disgusting. The moment Deor had a shot at the crown, everyone started acting like he was worthy, even though he still couldn't use magius and carried commoner blood. Later, guards escorted Deor to the training grounds. This time, he wasn't swinging a sword, he was practicing with a bow. He had a problem to solve. Deor realized Luxafix's spells had limited range, so he came up with a clever workaround. He aimed, fired, and shattered a glass target. Then he shouted at the guards to cast Luxafixa on the shattered pieces. When they did, the spell spread across the fragments, destroying every target around. The guards were stunned, praising his intelligence. Meanwhile, Dante was busy briefing his team. He had sensed demons near the kingdom's borders. Ilian's troops would march from the east. Princess Stella and Solaris were stationed in the southwest, and that left Deor's unit to head north. Deor and his guards had one mission: defeat the demon lurking in the area. One of the guards stepped forward, assuring Deor that they'd protect him with everything they had. He even reminded Deor that the king himself had ordered Dante to personally watch over him. As the party advanced, a sinister presence followed, someone radiating demonic power, and it was clear Deor was the target. The guards began talking among themselves about Prince Equali. They criticized him, saying he was too kind, too willing to sacrifice himself for others, and therefore unfit to be king. But Deor saw it differently. To him, Equali's kindness was strength. Almost everyone admired his warmth and charisma, and that kind of nature could inspire people to follow. Meanwhile, we shift to Equali. He was helping farmers grow their crops, using his water magius to nourish the fields. The villagers were grateful, smiling at the aid he provided. But then, a demon appeared, snatching one of the children. The terrified kid tried to fight back with Luxafixa, but his magius was too weak to stand against the creature. Equali rushed in, immobilizing the demon for a few seconds, just enough time for the child to escape. He then ordered the farmers to cast their Luxafixa spells, merging their light with his water magius. All Equali needed to do was bend the light correctly, amplifying their combined power. But the demon fled quickly, slipping away. Confused, Equali wondered how a demon could even be here. Was there a contractor nearby? Don't worry, we'll get into that later. Back to Deor. Our boy wasn't so lucky. A demon struck him, stabbing deep. But here's the strange part. Even though he was wounded, Deor was smiling. Turns out, the one who got stabbed wasn't Deor at all. It was a demon. The demon quickly realized something. A contractor had been sent to assassinate Deor. The assassin unleashed his spell, blasting the demon's head apart, but it regenerated instantly. The tables turned fast. The demon immobilized the assassin, who desperately called out to the demon he had contracted with for help. But the little demon abandoned him, running away without a second thought. The one who had taken Deor's shape was actually a girl demon named Yuli. The assassin was completely baffled. Normally, once a contract is made, a demon must obey its master. But Yuli wasn't just any demon. She knew how to nullify contracts. Without hesitation, she ended the confusion in the most brutal way possible, by devouring the assassin's head. Meanwhile, back in the royal halls, Deor's uncle was in Vincent's face, furious about the king's announcement. He demanded to know how Vincent could give that thing. Yes, he called Deor a thing, the chance to be king. Keep that insult in mind, because it's going to matter later. Vincent didn't respond with words. Instead, he focused his ice magius. But the strain reopened his old wounds, especially the one tied to his missing eye. And then we shift swift back to Deor. He was doing more than fine with his unit of guards, holding his ground. But from behind, another assassin crept closer, ready to eliminate him. Before the assassin's spell could strike Deor, a bird swooped in, shielding him. And not just any bird. This was none other than Yuli, our girl demon. The assassin prepared to fire again, but Deor acted fast. He loosed an arrow, hitting her before she could cast. Just in time, Equali arrived, unleashing his water magius to suffocate her, trying to pin her down. But then, from behind, a surge of raw energy ripped through the air, a beam so powerful it wasn't aimed at Deor, but at the castle itself. The blast was devastating. Thankfully, Vincent reacted instantly, raising his ice magius to shield the castle. The strain reopened his old wounds, his missing eye aching as the ice barrier held. And the source of that attack? None other than the great demon himself, Invidia. Now that they had captured the assassin woman, Equali showed his merciful side, even with villains. He asked the guards not to gag her yet, to let her breathe. Deor, however, ordered her taken into custody. Still, even with her captured, Deor felt something was off. His instincts were right. From behind, another assassin appeared, hurling a dagger tied to a rope straight at him. Deor grabbed a guard's sword and redirected the dagger mid-flight. It ended up slashing the captured woman's face. This assassin woman was the same enemy Yuli had fought before, the one she supposedly devoured. So how is she alive? Don't worry, that mystery will unravel later. The assassin above pulled the rope, retrieving the dagger. Deor seized the rope himself, climbing up to confront him. In the end, Deor managed to slam the assassin into the ground, ending the fight. But instead of killing him, Deor showed mercy. That mercy backfired. The assassin unleashed Luxaplodia, a massive explosion erupting right where Deor and the assassin stood. After the explosion, Equali rushed to the scene, climbing up in panic, desperate to check if Deor was still alive. But neither Deor nor the assassin were anywhere to be found. Thankfully, our boy survived. He had only a minor injury on his forehead. The trees around had cushioned both his and the assassin's fall, sparing them from death. Even then, Deor refused to end the assassin's life. The assassin himself was stunned. They were both alive because, during their clash, Deor had managed to throw the assassin's explosives behind them. That explained why the blast erupted at the edge of the building, sending them tumbling down instead of being obliterated. And the kicker, when they were falling, the assassin was headed straight for death. But Deor shielded him, taking the injury on his forehead in the process. The assassin was left completely confused. Why would Deor save the very person sent to kill him? Deor's answer was simple but powerful. He wanted to be a king who protects everyone. Just then, Equali arrived at the scene, relief washing over him. Above, perched in the trees, Yuli revealed herself once more. She shifted into her bird form, fluttered down, and landed gracefully on Deor's shoulder, a silent but loyal presence at his side. The party knew they had to head back quickly to report everything to His Majesty. Deor, showing even more kindness, extended his hand to help the assassin walk. Mercy, even for someone who tried to kill him. Later that evening, the nobles gathered for a banquet. Lady Fluenti, Deor's mother, was present, and despite being a commoner, even the nobles admired her beauty. Deor sat quietly, Yuli perched in bird form on his head, while he pondered the day's events. 2 assassins sent after him, both commoners, both unskilled. Something about it didn't add up. Alec approached, introducing his sister to Deor. Meanwhile, Equali stayed silent, his expression heavy, as if he knew something deeper. Princess Solaris noticed, and asked if he was all right. Johann joined in, pointing out that Equali's face clearly showed something was going on. Then Johann's attention shifted. He looked toward Lady Fluendi. As she raised her cup and drank, she suddenly collapsed to the ground. The hall froze. She had been poisoned. Instead of panicking, Deor stayed calm. He knew exactly how to handle the situation. He rushed to Equali, telling him, "My mother can still be saved." Lady Fluenti was still breathing steadily, so Deor instructed Equali to use his water magius to extract the poison. But he warned him, avoid the front passage, the windpipe used for breathing. There's another passage toward the back. Following Deor's guidance, Equali carefully drew the poison out through her mouth. The nobles around wouldn't stop whispering, their voices buzzing like flies. Deor had enough. He demanded silence, reminding them that attempting to murder a member of the royal family was treason against King Evangale himself. Since the poison wasn't fatal, Deor cleverly deduced it eliminated a wide range of toxins. That meant investigators could narrow down the source in the trade market. His quick thinking made the culprit nervous, and nervous people make mistakes. Sure enough, 2 nobles slipped away from the banquet, exposing themselves. But the twist, those 2 weren't the masterminds. Above them stood the real boss, Johann. Behind him were his Uncle Fry and Sir Mycrawl. Fry apologized, admitting the plan had failed. Fry and Mycrawl then turned on each other, arguing and blaming one another for the disaster. Johann, cold and ruthless, silenced the chaos. He used his elector magius to kill one of the nobles who had overheard their plotting. Once Fry and Mycrawl left, Johann reflected on what had happened. He was impressed by Deor's reaction, calm, decisive, even though his mother had nearly died before his eyes. Back with Deor, Solaris noticed the intensity in his eyes, worry mixed with anger. Equali reassured him, saying Lady Fluenti would stay in the clinic for a few days under guard protection. As for Solaris, she was tasked with guarding Deor's mother personally, since she was the second strongest light magius in the kingdom. Solaris then asked Deor about the bird perched on him. He explained that he found it near the Sand River, and since it refused to leave him, he decided to keep it. What he didn't say outright was the real reason. This bird had saved him during battle, and Deor was fully aware of that. Still, he had no idea the bird was actually the demon girl Yuli. Equali excused himself, but not without carrying a heavy truth. He knew exactly who was behind the poisoning, his own brother Johann. Meanwhile, Johann hadn't moved from his vantage point. Watching the guards below, his mind drifted back to childhood. He had always seen people as ants, born into noble blood and convinced of his superiority. His archery skills were sharp, but so were those of the other royal children. One day their father, King Vincent, came to watch them practice. Johann, desperate for attention, managed to hit a moving target, a bird mid-flight. But the king barely reacted. His duty was to protect the kingdom, not to praise his son's cruelty. From behind, Equali had witnessed Johann's disappointment, the cold sting of being ignored. Back in the present, Equali stepped forward, ready to confront his brother. Equali didn't waste time. He went straight to the point, demanding Johann explain why he poisoned Lady Fluenti. Johann, of course, lied, denying everything. But then he twisted the knife. He reminded Equali of the past, when he had once suggested poisoning Lady Fluenti. See that? Don't let Equali's kindness fool you. He wasn't always the merciful brother we know now. But that was long ago. Equali had changed, or so everyone thought. This time, Equali came prepared. He produced a letter, proof that Johann had ordered Uncle Fry to poison Lady Fluenti. If that letter reached the king, Johann's fate would be sealed. Just then, a demon struck from behind, stabbing Equali. The truth was laid bare. Johann was working with demons. Even wounded, Equali kept up his kind facade, telling Johann he was only lonesome, that he didn't need to go this far. But Johann had already crossed the line. He was ready to kill all his brothers to seize the throne, even if it meant cooperating with demons. The guards below saw the demon and attacked, but their light magius spells were useless. The creature was too strong. Johann, confident, thought everything was going according to plan. He even confessed he was the one who ordered Deor Fluenti's assassination. That was the breaking point. Equali's demeanor shifted completely. And then came the shocking reveal. Equali unleashed demonic power himself, stabbing Johann and seizing him. Behold, the true face of Equali. Johann tried to break free, unleashing his electro spell, but Equali was far too skilled to let him move. From the shadows, Equali shifted into his water magius, binding Johann tighter, giving him no chance to escape. Even the demon contracted to Johann trembled in fear and attempted to flee, but Equali seized it before it could vanish. Johann, desperate, demanded to know why his brother was so protective of Deor. Equali answered by stripping Johann of his elector crystal with his water spell. His words were scattered, cryptic, but one thing was clear. He believed the path to the crown lay elsewhere. Wrapping Johann in his water magius, Equali declared that Deor was the sword that could seize the throne. And then, in a shocking act, Equali killed his own brother. Johann's body dissolved, turning into bubbles of water. Things were only getting more intense. The guards fired a signal flare into the sky, declaring that a demon was inside the castle. Once Deor saw the signal flare, he left Solaris behind to guard his mother and rushed toward the danger. He wanted to find Dante, fearing his ally might have been ambushed. Yuli, shifting from bird into crow form, followed close behind. Suddenly, she swooped down, smacking Deor into an empty spot where no guard could see them. There, she spoke in her true demon voice, freezing Deor in shock. Then she shifted again, this time into a cat. But Yuli wasn't impressed. Deor wasn't as shaken as she expected. Makes sense though. From the beginning, Deor suspected the bird was something more, especially after it had saved him in battle. Yuli explained the truth. Even though she was a demon, she was an ally sent by the king himself to help. Deor hesitated, unsure if he could trust her. But she added that Dante was aware of her presence too. That explained why Dante had ignored the demon shadowing Deor in the beginning. It was Yuli all along. Yuli then led Deor to Dante. They found him battered, injured all over from fighting a contractor who wielded a powerful demon. A guard rushed in to report the ongoing chaos, but the contractor struck, aiming at the guard. Dante lunged to protect the guard, but the attack shifted, hitting the guard anyway. Dante took another blow, collapsing under the strain. The contractor was none none other than the same assassin woman who had targeted Deor before. How was she free after being captured? Simple. Johann had hired her, and it was easy for him to release her. Before she could finish Dante off, Deor came in clutch, saving him at the last moment. Deor held his ground. Since the assassin woman had lowered her sword, all he needed to do was keep her from uttering a spell. Dante warned him she had a demon nearby, so he had to be careful. Suddenly, she unleashed demonic power, striking back and hurling Deor away. She tried to flee, but Deor stopped her cold, smacking her head to keep her down. That's when he realized this was the same woman who had tried to assassinate him earlier that morning. How had she escaped custody? If she was free, then the other assassin must have escaped too. And Deor was right. The male assassin was hiding in the courtyard, watching. He couldn't bring himself to fight back. Mercy had shaken him. Deor's words about wanting to be a king who protects everyone had left a mark. But Deor couldn't sense the demon creeping up behind him. The man shouted, warning him to watch out. Just as the demon struck, Deor barely dodged in time. From the cracks in the ground, spikes of demonic energy erupted. And the assassin woman, who had collapsed moments ago, suddenly awoke once more. The assassin woman began gathering more and more demonic energy, determined to end the fight once and for all. Dante struck from behind, trying to weaken her even slightly, but she countered with brutal force, landing a direct hit that sent Dante crashing through the wall. Carmen, the male assassin, rushed to Dante's side, lending aid. The woman was furious. They were supposed to kill Deor and Dante, yet Carmen was helping them. Carmen argued back, saying Prince Fluenti could help them, that they didn't need to keep killing. But the woman was under the demon's influence, blind to reason, unable to tell right from wrong. Deor saw the demon hovering around her head and lunged forward. But before he could strike, she countered, forcing him onto the defensive. As Deor struggled against the demon's relentless attacks, the woman retrieved her sword. Their blades clashed, but the demon's interference made the fight unbearable. Then Deor noticed something. Dodging her attacks wasn't difficult. The demon's movements were perfectly synced with her steps. That gave him a clue. But the challenge was brutal. He had to hold out for 5 hours until the guards arrived. Carmen doubted Deor could last that long. Yuli, watching from above, realized it wasn't a good plan either. So she decided to intervene, or rather, make things worse. She leapt forward, retrieving her shadow piece, pretending to help Deor. The woman's attention shifted to Yuli. Deor dashed forward, exactly as Yuli wanted. The assassin woman unleashed a light magius attack at Yuli. Yuli dodged, but the spell passed through and struck Deor directly. And just like that, our main character began to fade away. Deor was dead, or so we thought. The assassin woman sneered, trash-talking as if she had already won. She thought she had finally taken revenge on the aristocrats who wronged the villagers. But she was wrong. Even with half his body gone, Deor was still alive. A red, dark energy began to swirl around him, the miasma of a demon. Yes, you guessed it. The truth was revealed. Deor himself was a demon. Before the woman could unleash another light spell, Yuli stepped in and devoured her. But she didn't stop there. Her next target was Deor. She consumed him too, his fading half disappearing into her shadow. It seemed over. Deor's body was vanishing, his existence slipping away. But then Yuli appeared behind him, embracing what remained of him. She whispered, reminding him of his own words. Don't panic. Calm down. Focus. Control your emotions. Deor steadied himself. He accepted the truth. He was a demon. And with that realization, he turned his power against the little demon that had contracted with the assassin woman, devouring it completely. Carmen saw it all. Deor stood there, half a body, radiating terrifying energy. As Deor approached him, Carmen nearly lost control, trembling in fear. Deor nearly lost himself to his demonic side, ready to devour Carmen. But at the last moment, he stopped, pulling back before crossing that line. Just then, the other guards arrived. Carmen, clutching Sasha's lifeless body, fled in panic. Yuli appeared behind Deor, mocking him for losing control of himself. Then she revealed her true form, not just a demon, but a maid working inside the castle. Before the guards could spot them, Yuli absorbed Deor into herself and shifted back into bird form, flying away unseen. Meanwhile, Carmen was unraveling. Running forward with Sasha's body, he couldn't believe what he had witnessed. Prince Deor was a demon. That's when Fry appeared. He was the one commanding Carmen and Sasha, and he was furious at Carmen's reckless behavior, fearing exposure. Fry demanded to know what had happened to Johann. Equali then entered the scene, calming his uncle. But Fry noticed something strange. He hadn't sensed Equali's approach at all. And since we already saw Equali use demonic power earlier, the truth was clear. Equali himself was a demon. Equali immediately shifted the topic, claiming Johann had confessed everything. Johann had hired assassins to eliminate Deor, while Fry and Lord Mycrawl had attempted to poison Lady Fluenti. Equali added that Johann did all this because he discovered Deor was a demon. Carmen, still shaken, confirmed what he saw. Deor was indeed a demon. But demons were supposed to be shapeless monsters that devoured humans and animals. If that was true, then what did it mean for the two standing before him now? Carmen's mind spiraled. Equali was definitely one of them. them. Carmen begged for his life when Equali's eyes locked onto him, swearing he would never speak a word. Fry, meanwhile, had pieced things together. Now it all made sense. Deor was a demon. That explained why he had been kept inside the palace, shielded from the harsh light outside and the Luxafix's spells near the borders. Equali played it cool. Somehow, he wielded both light and demonic power. To prove himself, he demonstrated his light magius to Carmen. The warmth eased Carmen's fear. To be certain, Carmen cast Luxafixa directly on Equali's arm, and it did no harm. Relieved, Carmen believed Equali wasn't a demon. Fry, seeing Sasha's limp body beside Carmen, ordered Equali to discard her. But Carmen begged for mercy, insisting she was still alive, even though her body showed no reaction. The sad truth of contractors was revealed. Once their souls were devoured by demons, they ceased to be human, reduced to nothing more than breathing lumps of flesh. Fry wanted every trace of conspiracy erased. Equali assured him he would handle it. When Fry asked about Johan's whereabouts, Equali feigned sorrow, claiming Johan had been killed at the stone towers by a demon. Fry couldn't believe it. Johan was too powerful. Only Equali rivaled him. The idea that Equali had killed his own brother seemed impossible. Little did Fry know, Equali was a demon himself. Then a chilling aura swept the air. No, a freezing aura. The king had arrived. Vincent approached, sensing something. He focused, spotting a demon battling guards nearby. With a single strike of his ice magius, Vincent obliterated the creature. Turning to his son, Vincent demanded answers about Deor and Johan. Equali claimed he didn't know Deor's whereabouts, but Johan had been killed and his body devoured by a demon. The guards dragged Carmen into the dungeons, while Sasha was to be thrown into the Deadlands. But Equali insisted he would take care of her. In private, Equali revealed his true face. He told Sasha that the soldiers would have buried her alive or tossed her into the dungeons to starve. Instead, he surrounded her with his water magius, dissolving her instantly, just as he had done to Johan. At least her death was painless. Meanwhile, the guards searched desperately for Deor. Yuli carried him into an empty spot and spat him out. Deor remained in that terrifying state, half a body, half missing, yet still alive. Yuli finally revealed her true form to Deor. But Deor wasn't listening to her words at first. He was staring at the state of his own body, half missing, half alive. Yuli was impressed when, instead of panicking, Deor calmly asked her where his father was. That calmness marked a turning point. Deor finally accepted the truth. He was a demon. It explained why he had been locked away in the castle all those years, shielded from the outside world. And then he thought deeper. Earlier, he had devoured a lesser demon, which meant one thing: some demons could consume other demons. If that was true, then Deor had the potential to devour even the most powerful of them all, Nvidia. Turns out Vincent had been playing a long game. By turning one of his children into a demon, he had created a weapon capable of destroying their greatest enemy. But chaos would erupt if the upper echelon, or the commoners, discovered that one of the king's children was a demon. Yuli then introduced herself properly. She was no ordinary demon. She was an ancient one, befriended by the king himself to protect Deor. And now, she pledged herself to him. No contracts, no conditions. She would serve Deor forever, obeying his commands as his demon maiden. Deor asked her if his body would grow back. With a mischievous smile, Yuli said, "No," then she burst out laughing, trolling him. In truth, his body would regenerate with time and concentration. Finally, Yuli pressed him with a question. Deor believed he was a demon, yet he also thought of himself as human. She told him he had to choose just one. "What are you, Deorsum?" she asked, calling him by the name she had given him. Deor brushed Yuli's hand away from his face, cutting through her philosophical riddles. He declared firmly, "I am Prince Deor Fluendi, son of Evangale. Whether human or demon doesn't matter to me." His identity was his own, not bound by labels. He even added, since Yuli was his loyal servant, she should help restore his body. And so Yuli merged with him, reconstructing his missing half. Just then, a guard discovered Deor and informed him that the king wished to see him. Several days passed after the chaos within Galeus. With the death of Prince Johann de Roma, the upper echelon assembled for his funeral, palace soldiers investigating the cause of death, still officially deemed a mystery. Lord Dante, now fully recovered, joined the soldiers in probing the events that had shaken the castle. 12 days after Johann's funeral, whispers filled the palace. The maidens spoke of Deor being locked away in his chamber for 12 days straight. They had strict orders not to enter, save for one maiden, Yuli. When asked if the prince was all right, Yuli assured them he was fine. Then she approached his chamber herself with a knowing smile, asking if he had fully recovered. Yuli teased Deor when he didn't answer her right away, asking if he had suddenly become shy. When he finally told her to come in, she found him cloaked in his demonic miasma. She informed him that the king had been gathering dossiers on all the recent events. Seeing him in that form, she couldn't resist mocking him further, joking that maybe his 12 days of training had ended in failure. But Deor proved her wrong. He began reconstructing his body, showing that his training had not been wasted. He was annoyed at her constant Deorsome nickname, but he had finally learned to harness his power effectively. Self-preservation was now easier in a world filled with magius users. Still, he knew that powerful light magius could expose his true identity and weaken him. Deor asked Yuli who had discovered his secret. She answered plainly. His father, Dante, and his uncles knew. Johann had known too, but he was already dead. And of course, Sequali was aware. Deor then asked about Carmen, learning that he was safe in the dungeons, though left catatonic after torture to extract information. Yuli shifted forms again, trailing him as he stepped out of his chamber. Solaris was waiting, checking up on him. Deor spoke coldly to his sister, then continued on his way to visit his father. Yuli chose a dog form to follow him, but Deor couldn't help remarking that her crow form was far more adorable than this little pup. Before meeting his father, Deor decided to pay Alec a visit first. Since he had discovered his demon nature, he wanted to test his power, and Alec was the perfect subject. Infusing his leg and arm with demonic energy, Deor approached. Yet Alec couldn't sense a thing. Both Deor and Alec took their stances, the duel beginning with Deor leaping high into the sky, so high that even Alec was impressed. No human could possibly jump like that. Deor clashed with Alec Midair, channeling force through his leg into his sword. Then, infusing his hand with demonic energy, he pushed harder, overwhelming Alec's guard. Alec countered with Luxafixa, but Deor dodged with ease. When Alec fired another Luxafixa, Deor deliberately reached for it. He touched the light spell with his bare hand, dodging the strike as he landed. His arm vaporized instantly from the contact, but within seconds, it regenerated. Deor learned something crucial. It took about 2 seconds for small regenerations to complete. Alec, on the other hand, was left pondering deeply. He had felt something dark radiating from Deor just moments ago. The duel ended, but the echoes of it lingered. Alec had felt something more than darkness radiating from Deor. It was emptiness, unsettling and vast. Nobles gathered around, watching the sparring match unfold. Alec's sword grew heavier in his grip, his movements sluggish. He tried to summon a powerful magius, Ictaluxa, but Deor waved his hand, manipulating the weight of Alec's blade until it dropped to the ground. Alec still managed to unleash his attack, but the heaviness ruined his aim. Deor dodged easily, forcing Alec to abandon his weapon. Then Deor struck with a punch infused with demonic power, sending shockwaves through the courtyard. From this fight, Deor learned more about himself. His miasma wasn't inherently destructive. If controlled, it could enhance his physical strength without corrupting him. Alec's friend urged him to make a decisive move, warning that losing in front of the noble audience would be humiliating. Yuli, watching from the sidelines, admitted she had underestimated Deor. In just days, he had nearly mastered his demonic power. She found it amusing, a double-edged sword, ready to cut down humans or demons alike. She left to report this to the king. Deor checked on Alec afterward, but Alec, humiliated, felt mocked. Memories resurfaced. Noble boys beating him, mocking his family, calling him the son of a mistress from a lesser bloodline. Furious, Alec shouted that he wasn't a failure, insisting that in a real battle he wouldn't hold back his magius. Deor, playing it cool, reassured him. He said Alec wasn't a failure, but one of the most talented magius users he had ever met. Yet Deor only spoke this way because of the noble audience. Deep down, he knew he could show Alec what true strength was, especially after the mockery he himself had endured as a child. Meanwhile, Yuli visited the king, who was busy writing a letter. She informed him that Deor was ready to embark on his journey. The king thanked her for protecting his son and asked her to continue during his travels. She agreed, but reminded him of his promise. After Deor's training, he must provide her with all the information he had on him. The king sealed the letter with his ice magius. He admitted he had taken too much from Deor already, for in truth, Deor was the rightful heir of the kingdom. Deor finally stepped into the king's chamber, but the light-infused room weighed heavily on him. The magius light pressed against his body, reminding him of what he truly was. The king dismissed the soldiers, while Deor insisted Yuli leave as well. He found it strange that his father would share kingdom secrets with a demon girl. But Yuli stood firm, declaring she would never betray them, and that their alliance was in both their best interests. Even Vincent reassured his son. Yuli would accompany him on his next journey. The mission was clear. Deor must deliver a sealed letter to the king of Nordhound across the Sayak Desert. There, he would train under the king's personal guards, preparing for Invidia's inevitable return. King Sia of Nordhound knew nothing of Deor's true constitution, only of the plan to defeat Invidia using his power. Deor, however, was unsettled. He demanded answers, the origins of his demonic powers, and how he could truly be Vincent's son. The light magius in the chamber began to burn against his body. Vincent explained, the light here was similar to the luminescence of the Sayak Desert. Though Deor appeared human, he was still a demon. Training in such conditions would would make him stronger, just as Yuli had adapted. Impressed by his son's ability to maintain a human form, Vincent instructed him to acquire special garments before departing. He emphasized that Deor must deliver the letter personally. Deor accepted, swearing as Prince Deor Fluenti of the Evangelion Kingdom that he would relay his father's message to the Nordhound ruler. On his way back to his chamber, Deor encountered one of his uncles. Furious, unwilling to accept that Deor could be the key to ending the war. Fry was nearby, eavesdropping. Now he was certain Deor was a demon. Shocked, he realized the king intended to use a demon against his own kind to eliminate the threat. Fry released a magius bug to shadow Deor. Yuli asked where he was heading, and Deor replied he was going to meet a friend who would accompany them. Along the way, he stumbled upon Carmen, surrounded by dead soldiers on the ground. And among them, crawling silently, was one of Frey's bugs. Carmen trembled, insisting he wasn't the one who killed the soldiers. It was the bug on the ground. Deor calmed him, choosing to believe his words. He explained that the creature was a Crossian bug, a magius summon designed to trace a target's every move. The bug rose suddenly, lunging for Deor's head, but Deor anticipated the strike, catching it midair. From Carmen, he learned the bug had been sent by Fry Evangale, one of his uncles. Without hesitation, Deor unleashed his demonic miasma, vaporizing the creature instantly. Yet another bug, the one Fry had dispatched earlier, attached itself to Deor's body from behind. Every time he tried to grab it, the bug evaded him. So Deor surrounded himself with miasma once more, dissolving it just like the first. His aura flared, his expression intense, as he turned to Carmen and asked, "Do you fear me?" Carmen hesitated, but then answered firmly. Even though Deor was a demon, he didn't fear him, he trusted him. Meanwhile, Fry seethed. His plans were unraveling, his bugs destroyed. Determined, he resolved to hire a spy to shadow Deor during his journey. But before he could act, Equali appeared. Seizing Frey's face, Equali unleashed Electro Magius, electrifying him with brutal force. Equali now isn't just a demon who wielded water magius. Thanks to the yellow crystal he had taken from his dead brother Johann, he now commanded Electro Magius as well. Things are only getting more interesting with this one. Fry was still alive, staggering, when Equali realized he hadn't yet mastered full control over Johann's crystal. Even so, Fry spat defiance, calling Equali the true villain. And in a way, he wasn't wrong. Equali killed without mercy. But unlike Fry, he never struck without reason. Fry defended himself and his court, admitting they exploited the weak and ignorant, but claiming it was commonplace in their world. Equali countered with chilling clarity. There are flowers that beautify the scenery, and there are weeds that choke them. All we must do is pluck the weeds. He unleashed a powerful electromagius. Fry barely avoided it, countering with a luxafixa that struck Equali directly on the head. But when the light faded, Equali still stood. Fry froze. Equali was alive, because he was a demon. Before Fry could speak, Equali stabbed him from behind with demonic power, ending his uncle's life. On the side, Princess Solaris had witnessed everything. She tried to flee, but Equali sensed her and stopped her. Solaris understood Equali was supporting Deor's rise to the throne, but she questioned his methods. Deor would never have killed his uncle, even after all the wrongs, she said. Equali thought otherwise. Solaris asked if he intended to kill her, but his response was wild. "I cannot kill the future king of Evangale." Like, bro, come on, even Vincent had declared Deor the true heir, yet Equali twisted the narrative, manipulating Solaris. He asked if she knew why their father had adopted her. He claimed the royal family was a congregation of thieves, nobles who stole, killed, and manipulated to cling to power. Vincent, born sympathetic, had prayed for an end to the corrupted bloodline. According to Equali, when Vincent found Solaris, the heavens had answered. Solaris pushed back, saying Deor was the king's most favored child. Equali immediately twisted again. No, the king only respects him. Deor is a demon, a weapon to eliminate invidia and bring eternal peace. Solaris was shocked to learn Deor's true nature, and asked if Equali was a demon too. He dodged the question, shifting the topic, offering to escort her to her room. But Solaris refused, saying she couldn't leave Fry to die. Before she could continue, Equali struck her with demonic power, knocking her unconscious. Then, without hesitation, he devoured Fry. Meanwhile, our boy Deor donned the special armaments his father had prepared. His body restored, his resolve sharpened. He was ready to embark on his journey. Before departing, Deor chose to visit the place Carmen once called home. Carmen explained that Johann had promised to rid the area of devils, but now he couldn't understand how Deor could possibly deal with demons without light magius. Deor showed him the answer. He could devour demons. The miasma swirled thick across the land, but Deor absorbed it, blocking and countering every attack while shielding Carmen. Curious, Carmen asked about the strange presence on Deor's head. Deor revealed that it was Yuli, the demon who would accompany them on their journey. Deor pressed her about the deal she had made with his father, but Yuli refused to answer, reminding him she wasn't obliged to reveal everything. Using his power, Deor devoured the entire miasma surrounding the area. Even he was stunned by how much he could consume. But then things shifted. The overwhelming energy backfired. Deor lost control, coughing blood violently. At that moment, the true master of the territory arrived. A powerful demon surged forward, ripping Deor's arm clean off. The demon lunged with ferocity, its strikes relentless. Deor dodged swiftly, his movements sharper than before. Carmen tried to help, unleashing his light magius, but against this powerful foe it barely scratched the surface. The demon turned on Carmen, but once again Deor stepped in, confining the beast with his miasma. The demon stabbed Deor directly, forcing him to cough blood. Confusion struck him. Demons weren't supposed to bleed like humans. If I am truly a demon, why does my body react this way? Have I not mastered my power yet? He thought. Remembering his training, Deor calmed himself. He stripped away his human emotions, focusing only on control. With his mind clear, he dodged the demon's next attacks effortlessly. Then, with a single devastating blow, he defeated it. Carmen shouted his name, but when Deor turned, his face was empty, devoid of emotion. He was resolved. He would do whatever it took to protect the kingdom. Just then, Carmen sensed another magius presence nearby. Alec had been following them. When he saw Deor's true form, his heart froze. Terror gripped him as he realized Deor was a true demon. Carmen rushed forward and found Alec lurking nearby. Before Alec could strike him down, Deor stepped in, protecting Carmen and immobilizing Alec with his sword pressed against his chin. Since Alec had discovered Deor's secret, they couldn't risk letting him go. Deor ordered Carmen to fetch rope and cloth to silence him. But Alec asked a piercing question. If you're a demon, how do we know the king or your mother isn't one too? Worse, what if the entire royal family are demons? The words cut deep. Deor's mind spiraled into doubt. If factions sought to verify his parents, his father might endure, but his mother could be in grave danger. The thought of her being killed gnawed at him. Caught in this loop of questions, Deor faltered. That's when Yuli emerged openly, her presence undeniable. Guards were approaching fast. Alec seized the moment, kicking the ground with light magius to expose their location. To understand why things escalated this way, recall Fry. Before his death, he had approached Alec, whispering that the Flueni family was hiding something. He hired Alec to shadow Deor, promising rewards for him and his family if he exposed the truth. Now chaos was inevitable. Yuli revealed her true form, unleashing waves of miasma to distract the guards. Alec broke free, firing Luxafixa straight at Yuli. She dodged easily, taunting him, drawing his focus away. Then she tossed Deor's limp body toward Carmen, ordering him to get out of the castle. Yuli lowered her defenses when she saw Deor's state, just a lump of flesh, unable to fight back. Alec seized the chance and struck her. Yuli cursed herself. She had believed Deor was capable enough to defend himself, but now he was helpless. Her priorities shifted. Her contract was with the king, not Deor. If he died here, so be it. A demon is still a demon. Alec launched another Luxafixa, and Yuli flew off, heading toward the king. Deor, barely conscious, saw blood spilling nearby. Chaos erupted. The king himself, Vincent, was being chased by his own guards. He was bleeding heavily, staggering. And then the truth was revealed. His missing eye was a contractor's eye. The secret was out. Vincent, king of Evangale, was a contractor bound to a demon. His hidden truth was now exposed to the entire kingdom. Vincent, bleeding and staggering, unleashed his ice magius to freeze the guards in place, forcing them back as he pressed forward. He climbed the tower, where the powerful demon Invidia loomed, its gaze locked entirely on him. Yuli arrived, demanding answers. She reminded Vincent of their contract. She would assist him in his schemes, and in return he would help her recover her lost memories. Vincent knew her history, but in his current state, he looked close to death. Even so, his thoughts weren't on himself. He was only worried about Deor, desperate to get his son out of the kingdom before the chaos consumed him. Lord Mycral appeared, furious that the guards hadn't eliminated the king. As they hesitated, unwilling to strike their ruler, Mycral acted himself. He unleashed a powerful light magius, hitting Vincent directly. The king didn't even bother to dodge. His focus was elsewhere, on the incoming attack from Invidia. The demon's strike descended, but Vincent refused to fall. In a shocking reveal, he tapped into his own demonic power. With it, he controlled his son Deor, forcing him to intercept the attack. Yes, Vincent himself wielded demonic power, and he had control over Deor. Meanwhile, Iquali watched from the shadows, waiting for this exact chaos. And now, with Vincent awakening his dormant son, the stage was set. Iquali, the cunning demon who had already shown mastery of water and electromagius, was ready to make his move. Things were about to get very, very interesting. Deor was no longer the boy we knew. He was fully demon now, stripped of emotion, fighting like a force of nature. One of the guards tried to fire Luxafixa Affixa, but Alex stopped him, warning that Deor had just blocked a tremendous strike from Nvidia with a single blow. None of them stood a chance. Deor raised his arm, unleashing miasma that killed one of the guards instantly. Vincent collapsed, his body failing, but Yuli was there to catch him. The guards surrounded them, ready to strike, when suddenly a barrier shimmered into place. Dante had arrived, lending his strength. It was revealed that Fry had orchestrated much of this chaos. The king's weakened state was due to poison, another layer of betrayal. Dante quickly used a teleportation spell, whisking Yuli and Vincent away to safety. Meanwhile, the guards reported to Wolfgang, another of Vincent's sons, declaring that the king was guilty of treason and conspiracy with demons. Deor, however, was beyond caring. Surrounded, he fought like a true demon, merciless and unstoppable. And then Equali arrived. He wore his usual mask of sorrow, pretending to grieve for his brother's state, as if he weren't a demon himself. But beneath that false face, his plan was unfolding exactly as he intended. Equali feigned sorrow, calling out to his brother to wake up, but his actions betrayed him. He amplified the guard's magius with his water power, forcing Deor into a relentless clash. Yet Deor held his ground, killing anyone who dared to stop him without mercy. Before the guards could cast their next move, Deor expanded his miasma, choking their spells. Equali then forced Deor's attention onto himself, drawing him into direct combat. Their duel was fierce. Equali drove Deor to dodge midair, while Deor used the nearby building to propel himself forward, aiming for a fatal strike. For a moment, Equali knew death was certain. He dropped his mask, showing his true demonic face just long enough to evade and counter. Deor gathered his miasma midair, preparing a devastating blow, but Equali was already ready. Then the guards intervened, firing light magius that struck Deor and brought him down. They surrounded him, intent on killing him. Equali, ever manipulative, used his water magius to immobilize Deor. Deor collapsed, unconscious. But it wasn't the guards or Equali who felled him. The truth was darker. The red ring Vincent had carried all this time deactivated. That ring was the key. It could control Deor, and with its power shut down, our boy fell into unconsciousness. While Deor lay unconscious, his mind drifted back into the past. He remembered falling to the ground as the noble children mocked him, laughing and calling him a peasant's child. They questioned if he could even speak, and when he did, they still rejected him. The nobles around him looked down on him as if he were nothing more than an insect. Confused and hurt, Deor once asked his father why they hated him so much. Vincent's answer was simple: because you are different. And when people do not understand those who are different, fear is born. Fear creates hatred. Back in the present, Deor awoke to find himself bound, powerful light magius burning above him. He was in the middle of the royal court. One noble scoffed at the absurdity. The king's son was a demon, and the king himself a contractor. He accused Micral of exploiting the chaos to claim the throne. Micral countered by presenting all the evidence he had gathered against Deor, demanding to strike him with light magius so the entire court could see the truth. Still, many nobles hesitated. They believed in Vincent, unwilling to accept Micral's claims without full proof that the king was a contractor. Princess Stella stepped forward, silencing one of the nobles with her authority. Then, one of the guards unleashed his light magius upon Deor. His body dissolved into miasma before their eyes. The court gasped, undeniable proof. Deor was a demon. The royal court erupted into chaos, voices rising, accusations flying. Deor, bound and surrounded by light magius, forced himself to remain calm, docile, even as Micral, that venomous lizard, kept spewing lies, twisting the nobles against the king and his son. He painted them as traitors, conspirators with demons, long-term enemies of the realm. Before the tension could explode, Dante strode into the chamber. His voice cut through the noise, correcting Micral's narrative. He revealed the truth. Fry Evangale had poisoned the king in a silent bid for assassination, aiming to seize the crown. Dante had gathered evidence from their supplier, an illegal apothecary dealing in poisons. Worse, several affiliates in the very courtroom were implicated in supporting the plot. Micral, cornered, tried to deflect. He shouted that the king was a contractor, implying he had been under demonic control for too long. Dante countered immediately, stabilizing the room. He declared the king had his reasons for contracting and asked for time to clarify. Princess Stella stepped forward, her voice commanding silence. She reminded the court that Vincent was a pensive, calculating man, his loyalty reputable across the kingdom. Then she turned to Deor. "Is that right?" she asked. Deor bowed respectfully. "I am a royal prince of Galius. My power will protect our lands." He defended his father, explaining that Vincent had kept silent because of the controversy surrounding the use of a demon. Stella pressed harder. "One of the very monsters we fight against is here, within the palace, protected by the ruler." "For what purpose?" Deor answered simply: "To defeat Nvidia. Demons consume humans. But I am different. I consume demons, even though I am one myself." The court murmured, unsettled. Yet Deor's words were were overshadowed by his past actions. Just moments ago, under his father's control, he had killed soldiers. Mykral seized the moment, screaming that Deor could never be trusted. And then silence broke with steel. Yuli appeared, her blade piercing Mykral. The schemer's lies ended in blood. The bastard finally got what he deserved. The moment Yuli appeared, the guards unleashed their light magius against her. But it was useless. She had already adapted to their radiance. With ruthless precision, she shattered their light crystals, plunging the chamber into chaos. Deor wanted her to stop, but this was all part of Vincent's plan. Yuli would distract the soldiers while Dante escorted Deor to safety. Princess Stella acted quickly, ordering her trusted guard Gabrielle to lead Wolfgang's soldiers in pursuit of Dante and Deor, and to locate the king at once. Then Stella turned her attention to Equali. Little did she know, everything unfolding was orchestrated by him. Yes, this demon had been pulling strings from the shadows all along. Equali leaned in, his voice dripping with manipulation. He told Stella he believed she was the true heir to the crown. Stella, aware of her own limitations, admitted she wasn't strong enough to rule. Equali lied smoothly, claiming he had heard Vincent himself announce she would be the next king. He held her close as they descended, reminding her that Vincent had declared any of his kin could rule, even a woman like her. When one of the guards was about to be slain, Stella stepped forward, protecting him with her light magius. She then asked about Solaris, pointing out that her sister possessed far stronger magius than she did. Equali twisted the truth again, insisting Solaris had only been adopted so her magius could be exploited, not to raise her as an heir. And Stella, known for her intelligence, failed to see through his lies. She began to believe she was the rightful heir. Just then, Solaris arrived, her light magius blazing, and she turned it against Yuli. As Solaris unleashed her divine light magius, Yuli quickly realized she couldn't withstand it. Even she admitted aloud, Solaris's light was blessed by the gods themselves. Forced to change tactics, Yuli fled, vanishing from the battlefield. Solaris turned her attention to Mykral, attempting to heal him. The guards pressed her for answers about Fry. Calmly, she told them Fry was dead. She knew the one responsible stood beside her, yet she withheld the truth. Stella, hearing of Frey's death, fell deeper into Equali's trap. Manipulated by his lies, she now believed she could be the next ruler. When Solaris's eyes met Equali, the demon cloaked himself in false sorrow, pretending concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, feigning sympathy, his mask of deception flawless. Deor and Dante's escape was cut short as multiple soldiers blocked their path, casting waves of light magius. Deor focused on dodging, weaving through their attacks to stay out of range, while Dante stood firm, holding his ground to buy precious time. But Deor noticed something. Dante hadn't sensed the soldiers beforehand. That meant he was too fatigued, his strength waning. Even though Dante fought bravely, defending himself and shielding Deor, he struggled to break free. The soldiers pressed harder, giving him no chance to escape. From the side, Deor unleashed his miasma, shattering their focus and scattering their formation. The distraction gave Dante the opening he needed. He surged forward, breaking through their line. Deor advanced immediately after, following Dante, his miasma still lingering in the air to keep the soldiers at bay. Together, they pushed onward, their path carved through chaos. We cut to Vincent, and honestly, he's looking nothing like a king right now. To figure out how things spiraled into this mess, let's rewind a few hours earlier. The king was about to sit down for his usual meal when a soldier walked in, carrying written complaints from villagers near the borders. Nothing unusual, until Vincent took a sip of his food. Suddenly, he started coughing up blood. His meal had been poisoned. That poison didn't just weaken Vincent's body, it opened the door for something far worse. Remember that veil crown? Turns out, the demon Vincent had secretly made a contract with was living inside it. And the moment Vincent's strength faltered, the demon seized control. In an instant, Vincent lost himself. The demon took over, and under its influence, Vincent killed one of his maidens. Soldiers rushed in after seeing the dark miasma pouring out of their king. They struck him with Luxafixa, a spell powerful enough to shatter the half-mask Vincent wore. Turns out, that mask wasn't hiding an injury at all. His eye was perfectly fine, but it revealed the truth. Vincent wasn't just their king. He was a contractor. As more soldiers rushed toward the king, Mykral was right there, curious about the commotion. He stopped one of them and asked what was happening. The soldier didn't hold back. He pointed out that the king had killed one of his maidens and, worse, revealed himself as a contractor. Mykral couldn't help but laugh. Why? Because this was exactly what he and Fry had plotted all along. They were the ones who poisoned Vincent's food, but things had escalated far beyond their expectations. Now the king wasn't just just weakened. He was exposed as a contractor attacking his own people. That meant his support would crumble, he'd be dethroned, and Fry would rise as king. For Mycrawl, that promised a much higher position than he ever dreamed of. Meanwhile, Vincent was in full rampage mode. But instead of just watching the chaos, we dive into his mind. There, he's wearing a ring, the same ring that controls his son, Deor. Suddenly, a chilling voice cuts through, demanding Vincent return something. The voice drips with venom, calling him a thief, evil, vile. That voice wasn't random. It came from a dark red miasma, and it belonged to none other than the powerful demon Invidia. Invidia raged about humans, accusing them of stealing everything, and warned Vincent, "Give it back, or it would consume them all." This wasn't just a general hatred. Invidia had a personal grudge against Vincent. When Vincent snapped back to his senses, the scene was pure carnage. Soldiers lay dead, too many had fallen to his hand, and Invidia's voice didn't stop, pressing him further. Desperate, Vincent rushed to the rooftop, only to see Invidia's attack bearing down. With no other choice, he used his son to shield the kingdom. As for what happened next, well, we've already witnessed that devastation. We're still in the past here. Vincent wakes up and immediately asks Dante about his brother, Fry. Dante explains that Fry has been sneaking around the underground apothecaries, the shady kind that deal in illegal concoctions. Most likely, Fry bribed a few of the staff to poison Vincent's food. Yuli is thrilled. Vincent's own brother tried to kill him. Dante continues, saying he couldn't detect Frey's magius anywhere, just like what happened with Johann. And we know why. Equali killed them and consumed them. But Dante and the others still don't realize that Equali is a demon. Then Vincent does something unexpected. He hands Yuli a piece of her missing memories, part of their contract. Yuli is shocked. If she takes it, she could break free and fly away, ending their deal. But Vincent is confident she won't. He's certain that once she reads the contents, she'll stay by Deor's side. Vincent gives Yuli an important mission. He removes the ring, the one that controls Deor, and hands it to her. His instructions are clear. She and Deor must leave the kingdom, head north, and at the border they'll meet a young woman waiting for them. Yuli is to give her the ring, because that woman will become Deor's new contractor. The moment Vincent takes off the ring, his body reacts violently. Blood pours from his wounds, his injuries worsen, and he begins losing control over the crown, the very place where the demon he contracted resides. Still, Vincent reassures Dante not to worry. He's lived with the crown for 50 years. It's part of him now. His final orders to Dante and Yuli are simple but heavy: protect Deor. Vincent accepts his fate. His body is already dead. The only reason he can speak or move is because of the crown's power, or rather, the demon's power. Before Yuli departs, Vincent asks her to deliver one last message to his son. Tell Deor that his father begs for forgiveness. Back in Solaris's side of the story, the doctor had arrived to tend to Mycrawl, while Solaris was nearly finished purging the miasma with her blessed light magius. Equali, though, wasn't focused on the healing. He was plotting. Truth is, he wanted to kill Solaris right then and there. He could have easily, but since she was so easy to manipulate, he held back. Instead, he approached her, pretending to offer help. Once the miasma cleared, Solaris was still shaken by everything Equali had done. Playing the role of the deceiver, Equali acted surprised that she had woken up so quickly after he'd put her to sleep. Solaris pulled him aside, away from prying ears, and asked the question burning in her mind. Why did he kill Fry? Equali, with his usual manipulative nonsense, claimed Fry had a strong chance of claiming the crown, and that he killed him only so Solaris could become the next king. No shame at all. Classic devil behavior. When Solaris told him murder was unacceptable, he twisted the story further, saying Fry had tried to kill Deor, and Johann had even joined forces with him, hiring assassins to eliminate Deor. But Solaris stood firm. She made it clear she didn't want to be king, and that was exactly what Equali wanted to hear. Every step of his plan was falling into place. He doubled down, telling her she lacked the qualities of a ruler: courage, skepticism, and the resolve to punish evil. He was making sure she'd never consider the throne again. Just then, Stella arrived. She ordered her sister Solaris to help the others clear the demon miasma around the castle. Meanwhile, Yuli was searching for Deor and Carmen. Using her power mid-air, she distracted the guards chasing them and finally managed to locate the pair. But before she could breathe easy, the entire castle was suddenly engulfed in a massive surge of ice magius. And yes, it was the king's ice magius. Yuli finally reunited with Deor and Carmen. Deor, sharp as ever, asked why the king was flooding the castle with his magius. Yuli stayed quiet, unwilling to reveal too much. But Deor's eyes caught something: his father's ring, now resting on Yuli's hand. With a playful stance, Yuli tried tried to command him using the ring. The attempt fell flat. Deor realized the ring had the power to control him, but he wasn't rattled. Yuli found it hilarious, teasing him about what it must have felt like being treated as nothing more than a tool all these years. Deor wasn't about to let her keep it. He wrapped his miasma around her leg without her noticing, threw her off balance, and reclaimed the ring. He made his stance clear. Even if the king had controlled him, it didn't matter. His mission was unshaken, to protect the kingdom and its people. Yuli was stunned. In just weeks of training, Deor had already mastered his miasma with precision. Then she revealed the king's final order. She was tasked with delivering the ring to a young woman waiting at the northern border. That woman, Vincent's daughter, red-haired, wielding fire magius. The daughter saw the castle encased in ice and knew instantly. Her father's end was near. Inside, Vincent was drenched in blood, his body wrapped in a suffocating demonic aura. The demon mocked him, asking how it felt to be at its mercy. But Vincent had once confined this very demon using the ring, trapping it inside the crown for countless years. And that ring? It wasn't ordinary. It was Invidia's ring. Suddenly, everything clicked. Invidia had appeared earlier demanding Vincent return it, because humans had stolen the ring generations ago, passing it down like treasure. Vincent pressed further, asking why the demon hadn't killed him when he removed the ring. The answer was chilling. Vincent wasn't like the rest of his lineage, blinded by greed and apathy. He was compassionate, and strangely, this demon valued compassion. Then came the shock. The demon shifted into its past human form. That's when the truth dropped. All demons were once human. The demon of the crown confirmed it, saying he knew for certain Invidia, himself, even Deor and Yuli, all had once been human. That revelation changes everything. And trust me, we'll dig deeper into this mystery in the events ahead. The crown is sitting there, pulsing with this demonic miasma, completely out of control. Gabriel, one of Stella's soldiers, gets this reckless idea. If I grab it now, I'll be king. Big mistake. The instant his hand touches the crown, the demon inside latches onto him, draining his life force right there on the spot. One of the royal soldiers, watching this horror unfold, shouts out what everyone's thinking. Only someone with pure royal blood can claim it. His eyes turn to Prince Antonio. But Antonio, seeing Gabriel's fate, refuses. He says he won't touch a crown that reeks of such foul energy. Then comes Prince Wolfgang. He steps forward with confidence, convinced he can handle it. The moment his fingers brush the crown, gone. Devoured just like Gabriel. And here's the thing. Equali is watching all of this from the shadows. Every death, every failed attempt, it's all part of his plan to clear the path of heirs. Now it's Stella's turn. Equali swoops in, pretending to care, warning her not to touch it. She pulls away, determined, believing her magius light can suppress the crown's corruption. And for a moment, it looks like she's right. She clears the miasma, even manages to hold the crown. But then it awakens again, stronger, hungrier. It consumes her too, unleashing a surge of miasma that lashes out, killing soldiers around them. The chaos spreads, and suddenly Equali himself is targeted. But Antonio and his younger brother step in, shielding him. Together, they grip the crown, telling Equali to go and find their father. And that's the moment everything clicks into place. The trap is complete. Equali's plan has worked perfectly. Vincent suddenly feels it, the magius fading inside the throne room. Alarmed, he questions the crown's demon directly. Is this your doing? The demon answers without hesitation. He explains that anyone who touches the crown is consumed, because he refuses to let mortals wield such power so freely. The crown isn't just a symbol, it's the power to rule itself. But there is a way to claim it. Only those with equal power, the contractors, can take hold of the crown. That's the hidden rule. The demon then shares a piece of lore. For centuries, contractors have passed the crown down, generation after generation, suppressing the spirit of its first owner. That suppressed soul eventually twisted into the demon, now bound within the crown. When Vincent asks how he became a demon, the creature admits he doesn't remember. Once someone transforms into a demon, their past life is erased. Vincent presses further, wanting to know how a human can become a demon. The crown's demon warns him. Such knowledge is dangerous. It attracts the gods, and that path leads only to ruin. But then he pauses, realizing Vincent is different. Vincent is favored by the gods themselves, which changes everything. Before we follow that thread, the scene shifts to Princess Solaris. She senses the disappearance of multiple magius and rushes to find Dante, wounded on the ground. Dante reassures her not to worry. Deor is already taking steps to protect the kingdom. He even remarks that Deor's appearance mirrors his father, Vincent. Just then, Gabriel appears. Somehow, despite being consumed earlier, he's alive. He demands Dante reveal the king's location. Up to this point, Vincent still hasn't realized the truth, that his own son, Equali, is a demon. And Equali doesn't even try to hide it anymore. He shows his true face, declaring he doesn't care if his father hates him for it. He spins lies about how this is all for the kingdom's future, for Deor's future, but his words are nothing more than a mask for his ambition. Then the fight begins. Equali launches his water magius in a fierce attack. Vincent reacts instantly, raising an ice shield to block the assault. He counters by summoning sharp ice spikes from beneath the ground, but Equali smashes through them with ease, barely slowed. Next, Equali traps Vincent inside a massive bubble of water, aiming to finish him in one strike, the same ruthless move he used against Johan and Sasha. But Vincent isn't so easily defeated. He survives, and in that moment, he reveals his hidden strategy. He surrounds Equali with chilling ice, but the real danger isn't the frost itself, it's the curse woven into it. The problem though, because Equali is a demon, the frost curse doesn't destroy him. He endures it, proving just how dangerous he truly is. With the frost curse locking down Equali's water magius, he can't rely on the water element anymore. That's when things take a darker turn. Equali tosses the useless water crystals aside, and Vincent suddenly realizes his son has been using water runes to manifest water magius all along. Shock hits him. Then Equali reveals the lightning rune he stole from Johan. In that instant, Vincent understands the truth. His son murdered his own brother. Equali doesn't deny it. In fact, he admits it with a twisted grin, even boasting that he killed Stella too, claiming all it took was twisting her ego until she fell. The clash escalates, lightning against ice. Vincent pushes his frost curse, but Equali stands unfazed, as if the curse means nothing to him. That's when the crown's demon appears, urging Vincent to do the unthinkable, kill his own son. The demon unleashes a wave of dark attacks, striking Equali directly and tearing his body apart. But Equali regenerates almost instantly. That's the moment Vincent finally sees the truth with his own eyes. His son is a demon. He demands to know Equali's purpose, and Equali, cold and direct, lays it bare. His goal is the same as Invidia's, to wipe out humanity. As Vincent tears Equali's body apart, his son doesn't flinch. Instead, Equali begins speaking with unsettling calm, revealing he knows Invidia's past and even Deor's history. He explains that Deor was forced into becoming a demon by the very humans around him, betrayed by his own kind. Equali claims he wants to return it. Vincent presses him, asking if his contempt for humanity is truly so deep that he would erase mankind from the earth. But Equali reminds him, demons don't feel emotions. Then he turns his attention to the crown's demon, calling him by name, Sir Albert Custos, once the ancient guardian of what was known as the Evangelion Kingdom. Albert is stunned. He doesn't even remember his own name, yet Equali knows it. But Equali twists the knife further, admitting he lied. He only wanted to see if a demon who consumed enough humans could regain fragments of human emotion. That revelation cuts deep, because it exposes the paradox. Demons are born from losing all emotion, yet Deor, overflowing with feeling, still exists as a demon. That contradiction fascinates Equali. Could a demon ever turn back into a human? Then Equali lays bare Vincent's plan. He declares that Vincent never intended to crown Deor king. Instead, Vincent adopted Solaris to wear the crown, while Deor's role was to become a weapon, a demon strong enough to fight Invidia, only to be discarded afterward. Equali spits this truth out with venom, accusing his father of using Deor as nothing more than a tool. Vincent, horrified, calls it a wretched method. He reminds Equali of Invidia's atrocities, how he consumed countless human lives and purged the land without remorse. Vincent makes his stance clear. Demons must be eradicated, especially those who seek humanity's destruction. Fueled by conviction, Vincent lunges forward, demanding to know why his son has chosen such extreme measures. But before he can strike, Equali drives his blade into him. Vincent collapses, blood spilling across the ground. Equali wastes no time. He moves in to finish his father once and for all. Meanwhile, far away, Deor halts. He feels it. The castle, once encased in ice, is now drenched in a blood-red aura. Deor freezes, his eyes locked on the red miasma swirling around the castle. A voice cuts through the haze. It's Invidia, demanding the return of the ring Deor carries. The pull is strong, almost dragging him deeper into that dark influence. But just then Rosalie, his sister, rushes in. She snaps him out of it, warning that they need to leave immediately. Deor hesitates, worried about his father, but Rosalie insists. These are Vincent's orders, even beyond death. The castle erupts, red miasma exploding outward. Invidia's voice presses harder, echoing in Deor's mind. Rosalie urges him to hand her the ring quickly. The red haze thickens, twisting erupting into a darker miasma that spreads across the castle grounds. Deor grabs his sister, and with urgency, tells Carmi they must move fast. Meanwhile, the soldiers are caught in the storm. They're forced to battle against two overwhelming forces, the dark miasma pouring from the demon's crown, and the red miasma of Invidia closing in. Inside the throne room, Helen arrives to find Antonio, his younger brother, and Solaris working together. Their light magius is the only thing holding back the crown's corruption. But they're not just fighting the crown, they're bracing for Invidia's approach. And then, Equali steps into the throne room. His face is marked by the frost curse, but he's still standing. Solaris senses something horrifying, Johan's magius radiating from Equali. She's stunned, because Johan is supposed to be dead. Yet here it is, alive within Equali. With that, Equali begins to advance toward the crown, preparing himself for the next move. Not only Solaris, but even Helen senses Johan's magius radiating from Equali. The shock is heavy, but Helen decides to hold back for now, choosing to monitor Equali later rather than act immediately. Then Antonio learns the devastating truth. Equali killed their father. But Equali twists the story, lying through his teeth. He claims Vincent was a contractor who hid the demon inside the crown to gain more power. And to make it worse, he says he retrieved Johan's crystal from Vincent, implying Vincent murdered Johan himself. Honestly, tell me this doesn't sound exactly like Eisen-level manipulation. At that moment, Hess Evangale enters, the youngest brother of Vincent. He tries to suppress the crown, unleashing lightning spells against it. But the crown doesn't budge. We already know why. Only a contractor can truly control it. Hess is outmatched. Then Equali raises his hand, ready to kill both Antonio and Hess. But when Hess locks eyes with him, Equali hesitates, pulling back. Hess realizes the truth. Vincent must be dead. After all, Vincent only ever uses the frost curse when he's on the brink of being murdered. Equali then steps closer to the crown. To everyone's shock, he begins suppressing it with ease. Solaris is stunned. None of them could manage this, yet Equali does it effortlessly. The crown's demon erupts in fury, cursing Equali with every vile word imaginable. And here's the irony, a demon calling out another demon, even though they're both cut from the same darkness. The crown's demon challenges Equali, asking where his compassion is, reminding him he was once human, or so everyone believed. The reveal, Equali was never human to begin with. From the very start, he was born a demon. Claudia, mother of Equali, Johan, and Stella, gave birth to twins. The moment Equali came into the world, he killed the maiden who assisted Claudia. Imagine that, an infant demon, terrifying even in its smallest form. Claudia, holding her newborns, was shaken to the core. Then an eye appeared in the air, speaking to Claudia. It declared the child's name, Equali. Of water, aqua of life, given equally to all. From that day forward, Claudia kept her secret. She never told anyone her son was a demon. She raised him alongside his siblings, but always with fear in her heart. When Equali called out to her, she would isolate him, telling the others not to enter the room. She hugged him, whispering that no one must ever know what he truly was, urging him to act like his siblings. Growing up in the shadows, Equali never felt sadness, joy, or anger. He only learned emotions by watching humans, mimicking what he saw, but he never truly experienced them. The crown's demon presses further, asking why Equali follows Invidia's path to eradicate humanity. Equali's answer is cold. He sees humans as despicable creatures. Then he calls the crown's demon by his true name, Alberto Castassa. 900 years ago, Alberto was the high priest, guardian of the ancient kingdom of Evangale. But he betrayed his empire, joining a coup against the emperor and his son, Prince Invidia. And now, time for the jaw-dropping twist. Prince Ignis Invidia Deorsum of the Evangelion Empire. That name ties everything together. Could it mean that Invidia and Deor are one and the same? That Deor was once Prince Ignis Invidia Deorsum? We're still in the past. Word reaches Prince Deorsum. The high priest, Alberto Castassa, has joined the coup d'état. Soldiers report that Castassa has already led an army through the main gates, overwhelming the infantry. His magius is far beyond anything they can withstand. Deorsum turns to his father, Emperor Tristitia Red Deorsum, seated on the throne, asking what they should do. The king is baffled by the question. His answer is simple: kill them all. To him, the kingdom has no use for those who disobey. But Deorsum resists. He doesn't want to massacre their people. His father, however, doesn't even see them as people. To him, they're livestock, animals to be controlled. Deorsum defends them, insisting they are the heart of the country. The king dismisses this, declaring that it is the king who decides what counts as a person. He creates the law, and only the strong deserve to live. Deorsum warns his father that the rebels intend to assassinate dominate him. The king, arrogant and self-absorbed, scoffs. To him, only power matters. Those who manipulate, trick, steal, cheat, and fight are the ones who prosper. Just then, Alberto Castassa himself enters with a flood of soldiers. Deorsum steps forward, hoping to talk, but Castassa refuses. He declares they've had enough of the court enslaving them. Deorsum's soldiers rush to defend, calling the rebels vermin. But Deorsum knows the truth. His father is the one at fault. Day after day, Emperor Tristitia indulges in luxury with his closest protege, while the people of the Evangelion Empire suffer in poverty, violence, and despair. Ignis Invidia Deorsum, the prince, has had enough. He longs for change, pouring sleepless nights into creating spells to help farmers and common folk. His father, meanwhile, has become a slave to his own indulgence, caring nothing for the empire's future. He refuses to share knowledge with those of lower status, dismissing them as thoughtless animals. Ignis pushes back, asking what defines lesser status. Poverty, he argues, prevents people from cultivating themselves, from keeping pace with those who have resources. The king, however, wants his son to keep the people ignorant, easier to control. Ignis sees a different path. He believes the Evangelion Empire can rise higher. Its people can cooperate, control their impulses, and achieve unity. After countless sleepless nights, he succeeds in creating a magius formula to increase harvests. He brings it to his father, determined to share it with the people. But the king refuses, fearing that knowledge will make them strong enough to steal his wealth. Now we shift back to Equali's past. One day, he sees his father Vincent reading an ancient book about the Evangelion kingdom. In it, Ignis wrote about how old principles limited growth. He believed humans could create magnificent inventions, formulate incredible ideas, and achieve discoveries beyond imagination. He envisioned a kingdom where individuals worked together, united for something greater. "We must guide our people, our country. We must all cooperate and work together," Ignis wrote. When Vincent leaves the room, the young demon Equali sneaks in and reads the entire book. That's how he learns the kingdom's past. In its pages, he finds the old king's words. Emotions are weakness, tools for manipulation, useless burdens. Ignis's reply stands in stark contrast. He swore to shower people with compassion, to let them feel bliss, to help them understand. As little Equali raises his head, he sees Ignis's portrait. And in that moment, the demon child wonders, does that mean I can feel emotions too?